Lieutenant Zimmerman, I want to draw your attention back to the incident on May 25th of 2020.
Yes.
Earlier you told the jurors about being at the scene, finishing your work there. The next day, did you have an opportunity to review some video of that incident?
Yes.
And do you recall what that video, where you saw it?
Yes.
And was it we've been calling the Darnella Frazier video?
Yes.
Did you watch that video in its entirety?
Yes, I did.
And since then, have you had an opportunity to watch other video of the incident?
Yes.
And specifically, have you watched body-worn camera video of the incident from the involved officers?
Yes.
And based on that and your years of training and experience with the Minneapolis Police Department, you saw then Officer Chauvin with his knee on Mr. Floyd's neck, correct?
Yes.
Would you call what you saw there a use of force?
Yes.
And did that use of force continue until the ambulance arrived?
Yes, it did.
Was there any change in the level of force being used until the ambulance arrived?
No.
And what do you think about that use of force during that time period?
I'm sorry?
What do you think about that use of force during that time period?
A little vague. Could you limit it to the time frame?
Right. Okay. So, based on your review of the body-worn camera videos of the incident,
Yes.
and directing your attention to that moment when Mr. Floyd is placed on the ground,
Yes.
what is your view of that use of force during that time period?
Totally unnecessary.
What do you mean?
Well, first of all, pulling him down to the ground, face down, and putting your knee on a neck for that amount of time is just uncalled for. I saw no reason why the officers felt they were in danger, if that's what they felt. And that's what they would have to feel to be able to use that kind of force.
So, in your opinion, should that restraint have stopped once he was handcuffed and prone on the ground?
Absolutely.
And I should add to that question then also that it appeared he had stopped resisting.
I'm sorry?
And it appeared that he had stopped putting up any resistance.
Absolutely, I would stop.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson.
I may just have a moment, Your Honor. Good morning, Lieutenant Zimmerman.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today.
You're welcome.
So you testified that you have been a Minneapolis police officer since June 5th, 1985, correct?
1985, yes.
And prior to that, you were with another agency?
Yes.
And when you initially came on to the Minneapolis Police Department, you were a patrol officer, correct?
Yes.
And you were a patrol officer from 1985 to approximately 1993 when you took the sergeant's exam and were promoted.
Yes.
And so it's fair to say that since 1993, so 27, 28 years, you've not been on patrol in the city of Minneapolis.
Correct.
Your assignments have been investigative in nature, correct?
Yes.
And generally speaking, an investigative role is more of a follow-up type role, right?
Yes.
So an incident occurs on the street, it gets assigned to a detective, and then your job is to investigate the circumstances of that incident, right?
Yes.
And so it's fair to say that since 1993, you've not, other than perhaps for ceremonial reasons, you've not worn a uniform on a daily basis.
Well, I don't know if I would call it ceremonial.
Well,
I've had to wear a uniform.
You have to wear a uniform from time to time, but your daily role is as a clothed police officer, correct?
Yes.
And you're not out patrolling the streets, making arrests, things of that nature.
No.
All right. And it's fair to say then that your experience with the use of force of late has been primarily through training.
Through what?
Your training.
Yes.
All right. Meaning you're not out actively, other than perhaps arresting a homicide suspect, you're not out actively patrolling and arresting people for less serious offenses.
No.
Right. And so you describe the use of force continuum as including mere presence being a type of the use of force, right?
Yes.
And so when you arrive on scene as a lieutenant in the homicide unit, that is a use of force, right?
If people know I'm a lieutenant, yes.
Or if they know you're a police officer, perhaps.